Do you really know just how heavy 24 hours of metal music really is? About the weight of your mobile phone. Download our free andrewhogue.com iPhone and Android apps now. That way, you'll never be far away from us. This is Andrew Hogue, of course, for andrewhogue.com. Still Australia's only 24/7 metal radio station. Now I've got a great guest, a long-time friend of mine, and also a long-time fan of this band as well. They're back with their 11th studio album called Deceivers. We're with the great Michael Amott from Arch Enemy. Welcome back to andrewhogue.com, Michael.
Thank you, Andrew. It's good to be. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to catch up again, and also a pleasure to get some new Arch Enemy music. And I know it's been a bit of a whirlwind for, I guess, the entire planet the last couple of years, but looking back at the band's, I guess, discography, and there's never really any rest in between. It's always kind of a cycle approach of, you know, an album, 2 years, tour, back to an album, 2 years, tour kind of thing. So how, I guess we can just go into how that whole thing affected that kind of, I guess you'd say, routine over the sort of pandemic time for the band. I know it gave you time to write new music as well, but I mean, how did you adapt to that during that time?
Well, we started writing, seriously writing this album in January 2020, right before the apocalypse hit. And we had about 6 or 7 songs, instrumental songs at that point. And then when the pandemic kicked in full force, it was like me and Daniel, our drummer, and me, we're putting the music together, and we just sort of figured it was a good time to sort of focus. We didn't know what was going on anyway, so we just thought, well, we just wrap this up and continue working. But we had a lot of time working on this album, of course, a bit more time than we usually have. And I was saying to somebody earlier, I've always had this dream of having this no deadline and just go away and write your masterpiece, and don't worry about the schedule. But I think that it's a bit weird to have it open ended like that as well. So it's almost too much time to go back and mess with stuff all the time, changing things. But at the same time, it was cool, and a bit more time was needed. Actually, it was a bit more like logistically, it was complicated. Writing it was fine because both me and Daniel were in Sweden, and we could sort of meet up. We were not really affected by the restrictions, anything like that, really. But then when it came to the actual recording of the album, the real album recording, and getting everybody into the studio, which is what we usually do. We don't usually have people just we don't do things over the internet, really. So that was a bit of a logistical nightmare, of course, because in early 2021, for example, there was still a lot of travel restrictions and stuff like that. But overall, it was nice to have a project like this. It was a big album project, it's a lot that goes into that, and it was nice to have something to focus on during that whole time.
Because, as I mentioned, the band's always been really, really consistent with albums, literally every 2, maximum 3 years. The output's very, very strong. And to sort of see that kind of, I guess, bump in the road for most people.
Or fall apart.
Yeah, well, pretty much. But let's talk a bit about the band's sound, because it's like, to me, being a long-time fan of the band, you kind of know what to expect. And I always talk about bands that have a 25-year plus career, that it's almost like damned if they do, damned if they don't. If they try something different, fans will just rip into them. If they kind of stick to what they're known for, it's like, it's the same old. It's like the AC/DC Slayer sort of approach that people tend to say. So do you sort of feel, in that sort of conundrum of, okay, we want to try and add a few different things here and there, but, do you feel kind of, I hate to use the word, trapped in the formula of Arch Enemy? Because it is your own sound. You sound like no other band except Arch Enemy. But are there moments where, because I've noticed some clean singing on this record, so were there moments like, how's this going to go down with fans who are kind of used to what's been delivered in the past?
Yeah, first and foremost, I think we're trying to please ourselves, and then after that, we start thinking about, our hardcore fan base, what they're going to think about it. And then it's obviously you hope to win over some new fans as well on each album, right? Each tour. But I think it's, I mean, I know what you're saying, but, and I've thought about that a lot over the years, of course. But I think nowadays we have a lot of confidence in our sound. I mean, I don't think, really not that worried, to be honest, about those things. I know we probably should be.
Well, I've read some articles recently that you've said that the band is probably the biggest it's ever been, and we look back at, you're still sort of in the some would say the old sort of model of the music industry, still on a record label, but of course you've always licensed a lot of your material, so you've kind of always managed your own band business, which is vital today. More bands should learn that sort of approach, but seeing the changes, it's almost like the band's sort of been unaffected to a degree because, like I said, the band just keeps growing. What have you noticed throughout these changes that's benefited to the band?
Well, I mean, so it keeps changing every year or 2 years. So the landscape changes a lot, doesn't it? How to release your new music. I mean, now it'd been 5 years, between Will to Power and Deceivers. There's a 5-year gap. So when we started talking about, putting out this new album that we delivered to Century Media Sony, it was just really, mind blowing to hear what was going on now in the music, how to get this music out there. Those initial sort of Zoom meetings and stuff with the German label, just to see what their vision was for how to get this out there, and it basically resulted in this plan with releasing all these singles, So we started actually 10 months before the album was out. We put out the first single, Deceiver. So, that was just a really new way of doing it for us. We've always been like 2 singles, 2 videos, and then boom, the album's out and we're on tour, and that's it really. But then now it's a different sort of, it's a different world now. People listen to tracks, individual tracks a lot more, singles. People listen to playlists and stuff like that, which is not how I listen to music, but, I have to, it's like, you either adapt or die, I guess, in these kind of things. But, it's, for me, when I look at it, I'm more of a fan of music than I am of a format, I mean, I am a record collector and all of that, that's a part of who I am. That's my generation, I still collect vinyl records and CDs and stuff like that. But, at the core of it, essentially, I'm more a fan of music than I am of format, And as a songwriter and as an artist, I guess, it's the most important thing is how do you get this music into, well, I guess not into the hands, but into the ears of the fans, and that's so yeah, it was really interesting. So we shot a bunch of videos last year, and I think we shot 6 videos, and a lot of content, a lot of there's a lot of content creation going on, which is like something that we're not, it's kind of, that's changed a lot, It's just so much is wanted and needed and demanded of us in a way. But hey, at the end, it's easy to lose sight sometimes of what actually is it we're doing here.
Yeah, I was going to say, because some bands some bands can tend to oversaturate themselves with content of, oh, look what I had for dinner, and we're sort of just, aligned. It's almost like it has taken out the mystique of, the artist versus the fan, because fans now go, well...
No, we had all those... Right, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had those conversations as well, and there's so many things, out of, they have 100 suggestions and we say no to 97 of them, so it's like that, and I think we're not the most fun band to work with, maybe from that perspective, but I mean, I think I'm talking about the content that we created was more like, like everything that had to do with the music in a way. It's just so many it's just a different way of getting the word out there now. Print media is kind of fading away, sadly, and a lot of other avenues are as well. So, it's just, and new things are coming in. So that's just the way of the world, isn't it? So
And
just
let's talk.
rolling with it. And,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
And let's talk a bit about the live front because, again, Arch Enemy are a live band.
Sure.
That's the greatest. That's where you guys shine the most is live. And, of course, it affected a lot of bands not being able to go out on tour. And how did that affect you psychologically? Because I know a lot of artists suffered because they were used to that space of expression, and not having that was like, people climbing the walls. So what was life like for Michael Amott not being able to take the stage for quite some time, even though you were writing the songs and writing music? But did you miss it?
I mean, I thought, yeah, for sure. I mean, I started playing in bands when I was 13, 14 years old. And, this was the longest break I've ever had since then, basically. So we actually fired everything up again. We went to North America, did a tour there in April this year.
Yep.
And at that point, it had been 2.5 years since we were on stage. So that was certainly something. That was kind of wild, to take that break. And then it was also kind of strange to get back into it, Because it's almost like the first year was interesting for us because we'd actually decided at the end of 2019, so we're going to take a year off. We're going to stay away. And we're going to make everybody hungry for Arch Enemy again.
Yep.
But it turned out to be a year and, 2+ years off for everybody. So that didn't work out. But anyway. We'd actually calculated, to 2020 was going to be off for us anyway. So we'd had that. So that first year didn't really affect me mentally or financially or anything like that, or us, because it was something that we had planned. But then, of course, moving into 2021, we had to start adjusting things, changing plans. We had planned to have the album out a little bit earlier than it came out now. And, of course, go on the road and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's everything just kind of moved a bump to year. So, but yeah, I think we did fairly okay compared to. I don't like to complain about that part of the. I know a lot of people had a lot worse.
Yeah, well, like I said, it was something that really, I guess, tested really all of us. It's all just down to, if you haven't adapted in your mind to certain unpredictabilities in life, you are going to suffer under that tension because, to a degree, we've kind of never encountered anything like this, and we tend to forget about what others have gone through in the past. You look at wars, famine, all those sorts of things, Great Depression.
Exactly.
We forget that there were other humans that suffered worse, and people are like, fuck, I can't deal with this, but you got endless Uber Eats and Netflix and in the internet, so it's like, people complaining about some of the smallest things. I was like, wow, it shows just to a degree how comfortable we've become as a society in so many ways that we aren't equipped to deal with adversity so much.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I couldn't agree more. So I just don't like to complain about it. It wasn't that bad for me personally, but I know it was for a lot of people. So, and I respect that. But I have to say, I kind of there was a lot of negativity and a lot of uncertainty in the world. Now, of course, that was a bit freaky, that was a bit weird, and in the beginning it felt like that was kind of like a unit, like people were coming together, but then then it turned out to be the opposite.
Yep.
So it was just kind of like I really just got lost interest, and I lost interest in like what people had,
you didn't keep up with the news or any of that sort of stuff. You didn't deep dive into
I mean, in the beginning I did, but then I just lost interest somehow.
Yeah,
my attention couldn't really stick with it. So that was really great about having a project like Deceivers, to have an album project to just dive into, just fully immerse yourself in music, just disappear in this other, it's like an escape, I guess, and do something like that. So for me, that worked very well. I think it was very healthy, and then here we are. It's out now, finally. We're back to doing shows and stuff like that. So I think, of course, it was really. I think it affected everybody in some way. But
well, speaking of shows, because you've been to Australia several times, and again, a lot of bands still kind of aren't heading here. A couple are starting to. We're kind of getting we're not getting the tsunami that we had for the last 7 or 8 years. You know, so many bands were coming here.
Right. Yeah.
What are the chances of Arch Enemy returning to Australia on this album cycle?
Very good. Chances are very good.
Okay.
So,
that's good to hear.
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have a big year ahead of us now. Like the rest of this year is packed. Really, I'm heading out to rehearse with the band in a couple of weeks. Then we do the 6-week European tour. It's a big tour with Arch Enemy, Behemoth, Carcass, and Unto Others. And that's going all over Europe for 6 weeks. And then we go straight from that into Latin America. And that pretty much takes us up to the end of the year, really. So that's an 11-week run straight. So then we have a little break, I guess. And then in March next year, we have a Japan tour that's announced. And I'm thinking we're going to fit in Australia around there. What do you think about that?
I would like to see you again, Mr. Amott, shredding on your Flying V. Now, obviously, for the years that we've had... Obviously, for years that we've had many conversations about heavy metal, if you were to choose just 1 year that you'd like the metal scene to be frozen in that time period, what would that be? What would be the pinnacle year of Michael Amott's favourite for heavy metal?
For heavy metal, heavy metal kind of predates me, doesn't it? Even. I mean, I wasn't really active, but I was a fan, of course, and I don't know. I mean, 1983 was a great year. 1982, is that Screaming for Vengeance? And
yep.
Number of the Beast. Was that 1982?
That it was.
Yeah, that's a great year. 1982 is a good year.
And what's the reason for that year?
By 1984.
Yeah.
Well, I just like, I think a lot of bands hit their stride then, Iron Maiden and Priest. And the whole new wave of British heavy metal thing. And so before 83, 84 is all getting a bit commercialized, maybe.
Mm-hmm. And how do you feel when you see bands like Priest and Maiden still going, 40, 50-year careers? And again, Arch Enemy's got a pretty lengthy career as well. I mean, do you aspire to continue to, hit that sort of milestone of the 50th anniversary of Arch Enemy?
That would be bizarre, wouldn't it? But at the same time, it's not completely unimaginable, I guess, because I mean, we quietly celebrated our 25th anniversary during the pandemic last year. So, who knows?
Yeah, well, that's crazy.
Stranger things have happened, I guess. It is crazy because it doesn't feel like that. 25 years, but that's half my life, and it's just like.
Well,
I wouldn't say it's wasted, though. It's been
of course
great.
not. It's been awesome. It's been amazing to sort of see the success of the band rise as well. And I remember Rob Halford just saying, I can't believe it's been 50 years either. So here's to another 25 years of Amott shred.
Well, hopefully. We'll see.
I don't have you for too long, so we'll get you to choose your favourite track from the brand new album, Deceivers, and also just one of your favourite tracks from the back catalogue, somewhere sort of within that, discography. Great records.
Thank you. From the new album, I would pick the song "The Watcher." One of my favorites off the new album. And then from the discography, God, there's a lot to choose from, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. Something really old, maybe. How about "Bury Me an Angel" from the first album?
Yep. That's a good one. How's things with the Black Earth? Was just a sort of one-off thing, by the way, with Johan back in the, just doing some sort of shows? Is that sort of, more of just a celebration?
That was really fun. We actually did a bunch of stuff with that. We did 2016 and 2019. We did the Japan tours, celebrating various things, anniversaries. That was super fun and really enjoyed that. It was great to play with my brother again and with Johan. Really, really fun. And we actually, for that 2019 tour, we actually released 2 new songs as well, Black Earth songs in Japan. So that was something that we did. But, I don't know. Since then, nothing's really happened. And, I went on the road with Arch Enemy again, and then the pandemic hit, and now I'm in Arch Enemy mode. And I don't know. It's just difficult to. That's something that we probably will revisit at some point again. That will be fun. We all enjoyed it. We're all still friends, mates, and everything. So why not? But it's just a matter of time, I think, and also like inspiration, the right reason to do it.
Yeah. That's really important too. Well, it's been a blast to finally reconnect, Mr. Amott, and I shall no doubt catch you in the year of 2023 somewhere, sometime.
Yes, that'd be great. Let's do it.
And let's check out some Arch Enemy right here on andrewhogue.com.